If you're feeling stuck with your enrollments, even though you're marketing and touring like crazy, my guest here today, Alexis Louis, she is the CPA founder of Little Ledgers and the Profitable Preschool Podcast, and she's here to reveal something that I think most childcare owners actually overlook, which is how the way they manage their money impacts their enrollments. So welcome to the show, Alexis. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
You are welcome. And by the way, if we haven't met, I'm Jaren, host of the Mama Magnet podcast, and I am here to help you fill every spot without discounting a dime. So let's jump right in, Alexis. Can you just share with me what made you passionate about helping childcare owners with the financial side of their business?
Great question. Actually, my accounting career started off in the music industry. So that's what the first firm that I started,
Wow.
working with Grammy-nominated artists and producers and songwriters and that kind of thing. And then I became a mom. And as my motherhood journey opened up, I realized that childcare centers are really kind of the heart of our communities that allow for people to get back to work, really, whether that be moms or dads or otherwise. When you have kids, they need to be in quality care. And so I realized that the childcare industry is a needs-based business, right? We all need people to help us to care for our children, and so I
Yeah.
really wanted to help those center owners to be profitable, to run great centers to the best of my ability from the financial side, to help them through that, so that while they're caring for those kids, they can also have the cash available for them to fulfill their dreams as well.
I love that. Yeah, I helped my parents' childcare center, and it's already stressful enough with the day to day. So when you're also worrying about money, that just
Yes.
adds extra stress. So I think the work you're doing is so important, and I'm so excited to talk to you more about it today. So another question for you is that I think, like I said, many owners don't realize how the financial health of their business can impact their enrollments. So can you explain a little bit about that connection between like their financial management and potentially like their reputation?
Sure. I think parents can kind of tell sometimes when you're not able to reinvest some cash into your business.
Yeah.
That can easily be reflected in the way that your center looks, from the uniforms or that your staff wear, or to the quality of the building that you're in, to the renovations that you've done or the ones that you've allowed to go on too long without being touched. And those
Yeah.
things can kind of be seen. And I think that when the center is ran well from a financial standpoint, you're not having to put off things that you otherwise would be able to do. You're able to increase the
Yeah.
quality of food that you provide to the kids. You're able to increase the quality of teachers that you're bringing into your program. Your teachers are happier to be there. You're able to compensate them better. You are better taken care of. You have more support, whether that be admin support or otherwise. And all of that can easily be reflected in the center, and it's unknowingly to us, maybe it is visible to the center, especially when you consider the fact that parents aren't just looking at your program when they're looking for care for their kids. They're looking
Right.
at home-based centers. They're looking at commercial-based centers. They're looking at family members or in-house nannies, all of that kind of stuff, and they're kind of comparing what would be the best fit for our family. And even if they're just comparing different commercial spaces, they're going to be comparing all of the things from how your signage looks in the front to the floors and how clean they are, or whether there's water spots on the ceiling. All of
Yeah.
those sorts of things kind of play into, like, does will my child be safe here? Are they paying attention to the little things? Because if they don't pay attention to the little things, how are they going to manage all of these kids at one time and be able to provide them quality care and curriculum and all of the other things at the same time? So
Yeah.
the trust factor. I'm obviously we're at some point when we become parents, we're first time parents, right? We've all been there where we're like super paranoid about who our child is going to be with, and
Yes.
that portion of it. And so the trust factor and how things appear from the external portion makes a big difference before you ever get a chance to speak to them about your curriculum or speak to them about the things that you offer. They see the external, and that is part of what I think that parents can kind of tell if the financial end of your business isn't together, it shows.
Yeah, thank you for giving those specifics that childcare owners can look out for. And they probably already know, like you said, they've been putting off that renovation. But I think you really like put it into perspective how the mom is seeing it when they show up,
Yes.
and that connection. They're, the mom's probably not saying, oh, they have poor money management.
Mhm.
But to your point, they're seeing like this place isn't really taken care of. They're not taking care of their property. How are they going to take care of my child? Well,
Yes,
that's what.
exactly. Exactly. And I
So,
think as a parent and then also as the CFO to many of our clients, one of them had an issue where they're like trying to get more so out of the day to day of the business and wanting to check in that their staff were taking care of the business the way that they had trained them to do so. So I actually came into one of their centers posing as a parent, which I am, but I was kind of secret shopping their
yeah.
center as if I was a client. The staff didn't know me. The owner did, but she was purposefully not present that day to kind of see how they went through different things. Like, were they attentive when I walked in the door? You know, all of these different things to be able to tour. Was the center clean that day when she wasn't there, the way that she would have
Yeah.
expected? And so a lot of those things make a big difference when you're coming in as a parent, and looking at where is my child going to be on a day-to-day basis? Do the kids have food on their face? You know, did someone pay
Yeah.
enough attention to in their mouth? You know, all of these different things
Right.
make a big difference. And it may not come off as there's a financial issue here, but
Yeah.
you're right. It reflects either way, whether you've put off a repair or whether you're not able to pay your staff as well.
Yeah, that's such a good thing that you were able to do for that center. I actually just did an episode about touring and how owners kind of have to like do a sniff test of their childcare center
Oh
so
yeah.
they can see. But I feel like it's really hard when you're in the center day to day because you drown out the noises, you get
Yes.
used to the smells, and so having someone with your fresh eyes and fresh
Yes.
perspective to like tell the truth of like as someone just walking to your center for the first time, like what is going on. So that's awesome. And I bet that was so helpful to that owner.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I want to talk about a little bit like, you know, we're talking about the impacts of someone putting off repairs, not being able to pay their staff well, and I'm sure they're feeling that stress, that pressure. Like, what are some of the common financial mistakes you see that kind of get owners in that position in the first place, where they're not able to keep up their property and pay their staff well?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is not knowing where they're spending money now. So
Yeah.
starting from the beginning of, hey, we're just operating this business on a day-to-day basis, and as things come up, we're just having to take care of them kind of on the fly. One of the things that I recommend is that owners kind of start something called a money calendar, like the things that are recurring that you know about, whether it be the internet or your security bill or anything like that that happens on a regular basis. Chart it into what day it's due so that you know. And being able to do that allows you to say, okay, hey, I at least know that these core things are here. When an emergency comes up, how much of a reserve do I have? If any, right? And if I know that I don't, then maybe I need to audit some of the subscriptions or different things that I have going on so that I can start to cut down on maybe some of those duplicated items. Duplicated meaning that if you have, like for example, we're using Zoom, right? Or we're using something like that. And there's another software that you also have that can also do video recording. So are you kind of duplicating some of the different things that you have? Are you making sure that you're applying to grants and things of that nature on a regular basis to kind of help you manage that? But to kind of answer your question, one of the things that I see them often doing wrong is just not knowing how they're spending money in their business and then wondering where it went. And when that's happening, you are now in a rush for payroll becomes panic, of do I have enough this week? And let me chase around these couple parents who may have been late or those kind of things, trying to, yeah, I've seen some owners where they're like, hey, I'm not going to pay myself this time, or I'll leave out a staff member because I know she'll be okay until I'm able to pay her later. And that
Wow.
starts to erode the trust. And so we want you to be able to be in a healthy place from a financial standpoint and knowing where your money goes or where it has been going, and then being able to kind of audit that yourself and say, okay, wait, I don't need this anymore. I forgot about that thing. I forgot that was still coming out. And even personally, I feel like sometimes we do that. We're like, oh, I'm still paying for HBO and Hulu and Paramount.
Yeah.
And like I do not need all of this stuff. And so if you're
Yes.
able to then like take care of those things, they're small in the grand scheme of things, but they add up over time. And so you'll
Yes.
want to check into those sort of things. And then the second thing I'd say paying attention to is the tax portion. And I know that's not necessarily top of mind for most folks, but it's the biggest expenses that you pay other than your payroll, right? And so you don't realize how much of it you're paying between your payroll taxes that are coming from your staff wages and the taxes that are due on a regular basis. And everything you purchase at your center, you're paying sales taxes. So there's
Yeah.
just tax on tax on tax on tax. And if there are ways that you can get with a professional like myself to kind of decide like, okay, are there some things that we can put in place that are either low cost or no cost that can reduce our taxes? Let's do those things.
Yeah. Wow. Such great advice. Like you dropped a bar there when you said when your payroll becomes panic, like
Yes,
something's wrong.
yes,
So thank you for those practicals. That brought up another question in my mind. Like I know like a lot of people can kind of be like do it yourself people. I'm like that. Like I'll try my best to do it myself to save money. But
yeah,
like I think you brought up a good point of like how a CPA can help. So I want to dig into that a little bit more because there's, QuickBooks out there, there's Zero, there's these accounting softwares you can use to keep track of your expenses, like you said. But what is the value of working with a CPA firm like Little Ledgers?
yeah, great question. So one of the big things is that none of us know what we don't know, right? So and meaning that what we're not able to know on our own, you sometimes don't even know what to Google or what to DIY, right? And so one of the big things is at least scheduling like a consultation, right? And a consultation is normally either going to be free or low cost to you to kind of get an idea of where, even if you're going to DIY, maybe making sure that you have the best training. One thing I will say about DIY though is wondering whether or not that's worth your time in the grand scheme of all of the things that you have to manage. So a lot of times what I see happening is that center owners are running around, obviously they have to do payroll, and so they're tracking hours or making sure that they try to make sure that their team's hours are correct. Reimbursement. So, hey, if a staff member has to go out to grab a gallon of milk or something like that, and then you're having to either cut them a check or pay them cash or whatever to reimburse them for that. And then on top of running into licensing issues and things like that. So you're kind of spread out in a lot of different areas. So the question would be, is the bookkeeping and receipt keeping and all of the things, is that really worth your time? If not, like at least price it out and see. And I can understand where sometimes we come into the idea of, well, I can't afford an accountant. And I would say that it's possible that you can't not afford one, right?
Right.
Right, like you're missing out on money that you're not aware of simply
Yeah.
because you don't have that level of team member on your with you. And
Yeah.
one of the things that one of my clients recently, she called me. It was like 7 p.m. and I'm like, why is she calling me? Like, there's not really any accounting emergencies, right? And so I'm like, but it must be important to her to like ring my phone that late. So I answer and she's like, Alexis, oh my gosh. I'm like, okay, what is happening? And she's like, remember that Comcast bill you told me about? And I'm like, yeah. She had like four Comcast bills coming out of one location. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
Yeah. And she's like, yeah, they had moved from one location to another, like moved centers. And come to find out, she had called to cancel it a year and a half prior to that, before we started working with her. And I was like, but there's like three Comcast bills on here. There's an issue somewhere. And so
Wow.
she's like, she called Comcast, come to find out they never canceled that other one, right? And so this was totaling out to like over $300 a month for 18 months. So we were looking at, you
Oh
know,
my
we were looking at about $4,000 or something like that that they now owe her in a refund because she
Yeah.
actually did call to cancel it. They just didn't. And so having
Wow.
someone else to kind of have a second look at your books, it's something where she saw Comcast even on a bank statement and she's like, oh, okay, I have Comcast, so it's not an issue. But didn't realize there were three different accounts happening at the same time. So it's one of the things of like having a second pair of eyes can make a big difference. And I
Yeah.
think the other part of that is just kind of knowing some of the either no cost or low cost things that can help your tax situation as well, to reduce the taxes that you owe, increase the refunds, etc. And making sure that you have the right business structure, to be able to optimize those things. And maybe it's not a long term thing for you. Maybe it starts off like, hey, I want to get as much as I can and then be able to grow my center from there. And that would work too.
Okay. Well, I think you listed out excellent reasons that pretty much is like we should see like a CPA, like a investment in our business, something that will help our business make more instead of like a cost.
Yes.
So that story is wild.
Yeah.
You just shared
Yeah.
like four different
Yeah.
Comcast
Absolutely.
and I think about like a bucket that's leaking, just like
Hmm.
water. You're like, let's,
Yeah.
patch up this hole.
Let's patch up
So,
the holes. Absolutely. And I've even seen like just another quick example where you've forgotten, like once you terminate someone or they leave your center and they're still sitting around as active in your payroll system. And so you're paying for each of those seats. So it's things like that where it's
wow.
like, yeah, they're technically terminated, so they're not getting any more pay, but
Yeah.
you're technically paying a per person fee for each of those people that's still on technically listed as active on your payroll. So it's like things like that where it's one of those things of it's not part of your process yet or you haven't really thought about it. And it can easily be something that can be cleaned up and you can kind of definitely save some money in that regard as well. My goal
Yeah.
with our clients is, hey, like I want to make sure that our fee is paid for by the savings that we find you, whether tax or otherwise, so that we're not just a cost center for you, but that we're actually adding value to what you have going on.
Yeah. That's awesome. Wow. That reminded me of like in our center, I remember another thing, just like when you're not really managing your money and have time to focus on that. I was preparing to help my parents sell their center and we realized like we had like $5,000 in unpaid tuition balances. I mean, you kind of just let go. And so it's just like those little things like that, like you said, really add up. And that could
Yes.
have been a major repair,
Yes, absolutely.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
And I think one of
So,
the other things, like when you mentioned tuition, it kind of brought up something for me where, same thing where we had a client who generally charges like every 2 weeks, right? Or sorry, weekly. They normally have a weekly fee. Well, obviously a lot of people also only get paid twice a month, so they're paying like every other week. Well, when we realize that when you're paying weekly, there's 52 weeks in a year, right? But if you're paying every other week, there's only 24. So that person's actually technically getting a cheaper price if you keep the rate the same. So like
oh,
let's say for example you're charging 225 a week, right? So 225 a week, if we do that for the year, hold on, let me bust out my calculator real quick.
I love it.
So 52 weeks, it ends up
Yeah.
being 11,700, right? But if you take it and you do 450 at 24 payments, which is twice a month, it's only 10,700. So you don't
Oh,
realize that there's a difference in the weekly pay versus
right,
biweekly pay, and so you're actually needing to increase your biweekly rate. So that was
right.
another thing that like we went over with one of the clients is that we had to have that hard conversation with her parents because she technically was undercharging by about $1,000 each year for those parents. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes total sense with the couple of months that have like the third week and or the
Yes.
5 weeks, the five
Yes.
weeks versus 4 week months. I remember a post of yours I saw on Instagram that was like, "Don't get caught by the three payrolls in a month."
Mhm.
And I'm like,
Yes.
you definitely have been caught by that
Yes. Absolutely.
payroll panic.
Mhm.
So for childcare owners who are listening to this and they're like, oh my goodness, you're describing my situation. Like I need to fix things. They might be feeling overwhelmed, discouraged about their finances. What's just like a simple like mindset shift or even just a piece of encouragement that can help them just take that first step towards fixing things and getting their finances on track?
Ooh, let me think about that. I think one of the biggest mindset shifts is realizing that you're worth more than just the money that you're receiving, right? And I think sometimes we choose to underprice because we're trying to help parents, or we choose to pay super low because we don't think we can afford it. And I think sometimes if we just take a little bit of a risk in, hey, we have to increase prices if you guys want us to continue to provide quality care. I
Yeah.
have to be able to give my staff a living wage to be able to pay for the things that they need to pay for. I need to be able to do that. And I think that a lot of times we're afraid of increasing our rates for fear of people leaving, but sometimes they need to. Sometimes they need to. And if you're raising the rate at a reasonable level, I think you'll also start to attract a different level of clientele, right? You'll start to
Yeah.
attract a different level. of parents and students, because pricing is one of those really interesting things that, like, if you price too low, yeah, you get clients that you don't necessarily want all the time, but
Right.
also if you price too low, you also scare away the higher level clients that would have paid more, because
Mm,
they're like, oh, this is too cheap to be good.
yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
think of like dollar store, right? Like you're like, you don't value it as
Mm,
highly as you do something else that you paid a more level amount for, that feels like it's a valuable price. And so I
yeah.
would just say, like, to step into the next level of where you want to be and realize that you are worth more than just the price that you pay, that parents pay. To realize that your value is
Yeah.
not tied to that.
I love that. That's such a good like idea for owners to like keep within themselves. And I think something you mentioned, it reminded me, I actually read about this psychological study. They have like 3 bottles of wine, all the exact same wine, but they put like the lower price, medium price, high price,
Mhm.
and did a taste test, and everyone said the highest price wine tasted better. But it was
Right.
the same exact wine. So like you said,
Yes.
how the price can communicate value.
Mhm.
Um, and pretty much just like quality to
Yes.
parents, and how owners might be accidentally undercutting themselves. So
Mhm.
that's also golden. You dropped so much wisdom in this podcast, so I just thank you so much for coming on and sharing all your knowledge, all your tips. I hope to the owners out there this has been as helpful to you as it has been to me. Kind of looking back, I'm not actively working in a center anymore. We sold it, like I said, but it helped us put a lot of things into perspective. So thank you so much, Alexis. And I just want to ask you, like, how, if people want to learn more and connect with you, how can they find you?
Oh, sure. You can visit us at littleledgers.com. We're on Instagram and Facebook under the same name as well, but the website is the main place.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, go check her out, people. She is clearly in the business to help you all. So thank you so much
You're welcome.
again. And I hope you have a great rest of
Thanks
the
for
day.
having me. Have a good one.
Thank you.